Welcome back to Radio Free IV. Obviously, long time no see, but life happens, I guess. Today's video. So, when it comes to politics in general, I think one of the greatest crimes against average people is that we don't talk about how things actually work, and we never really get to the core of how our politics end up like this, how our world ends up like this, who's responsible, what their interests are, what their methods of control are. And so today I'm going to talk about the two industries that I think are probably the most destructive in terms of how we live and what we're able to do, not just as individuals, but even as governments, even as societies. Now, these two industries are one, the corn lobby, the corn industry, big agriculture, you could call it, and the second one is the fossil fuel industry. And it may seem weird to put both of those two together, as if growing corn is the same thing as slurping dead dinosaurs and dead phytoplankton and all that stuff out of the ground and burning it to destroy the world, but they're actually deeply connected. So I'm going to start with corn. So most people, when they think about farming, when they think about what we do in our heartland, in our great, in the Iowa plains and whatever other states grow food. I mean, Iowa's the our big guy, but I don't know the specifics of the other ones. Kansas, the Midwest in general, very big on farming. But the corn industry in particular, and the way that it operates, is very new. It's very recent. It actually started under Nixon, with his subsidies to corn. And the idea from Nixon was, we're gonna subsidize corn, we're gonna feed corn to all the animals, and then everyone's gonna have cheap food, and they're gonna love me. It's gonna be great. And Nixon was right that we would feed corn to the animals and that it would make meat cheaper. But what Nixon didn't quite foresee, or regardless of even whether he did or didn't foresee it, what he probably didn't care about as much is the long-term impacts that would have on what our society is today. So when we talk about corn and the corn industry, again, corn, I love corn. I'm from LA, love my Mexicans, love my elote, love all that. However, growing corn as our main agricultural output is very sinister for a couple of reasons. Now, one, let's start with factory farming. By feeding all of these animals corn, which is grown so efficiently, they're able to be fattened up more efficiently, and they're able to, produce these large amounts of meat for low prices. Yes, but this meat isn't good, and this meat probably isn't good for us, and these animals are suffering. It's a horrible thing that we do to nature and that we do to ourselves by feeding us this slop, as opposed to the things that we used to eat before, which was animals raised on farms, raised by people who give a damn, who have a history of doing so. And one of the main causes of this shift towards corn and everything corn is the obesity epidemic. Now, one of the things that I think really weakens Americans in particular in terms of how we analyze politics is the fact that we are so focused on individual people and their actions that we often lose sight for how larger systems affect society more broadly. Now, 50, 60, 70, 100 even years ago, obviously obesity was much less common. There were less obese people were less likely to become obese. That has to do with the fact that people used to work more physical jobs, that people used to walk around more. It has to do with a lot of things. But one thing that really can't be ignored is a diet. First of all, eating more meat. What does meat have in it? Lots of fat. What does fat do? It makes you fat. Fat has 9 calories per gram. Carbohydrates, which is what vegetables are made of, and even with those carbohydrates, not very many carbohydrates, are only 4 calories a gram. Obviously, eating more fat is going to lead to these health outcomes. But then on top of that, you have to look at things like sugary cereals. You have to look at Lucky Charms. No, not Lucky Charms. Actually, I mean anything with sugar, basically. Because another really great realization that was made by producing all this corn was that we don't have to rely on these tropical producers of sugar anymore. We don't need to just rely on normal basic cane sugar, which, if I am correct, is going to be, is it gluten? It doesn't matter. We don't have to rely on normal sugar. We can rely on corn syrup instead. And then there's this even cooler thing called high fructose corn syrup, which is even sweeter. That has resulted in everyone being significantly more overweight than they otherwise would be. And in many ways, I would argue, is contributing to the destruction of our society. And it's taking away our capacities to act as we are naturally inclined to do, because we are animals, just like all other animals. When you change the environment that animals exist within, you change those animals just the same. The third thing that this corn is causing is alcohol, or this corn, the large presence of corn, our large production of corn, leads to is this huge production of alcohol. Now, alcohol has always been a very important part of the American economy, going back to the founding days. But the way that alcohol functions in today's economy is a bit different, because alcohol is really, really cheap to produce. But how do we still get people to pay, more exorbitant prices for this really cheap commodity? Well, the answer is you don't ask them, you just make them do it. So drinking alcohol, obviously, is a fun time. I'm sure many people who are watching this video love to do so. But that's not where the alcohol produced by all of this corn in the United States goes towards. Instead, we produce ethanol, which is the same thing that you drink in alcohol, but we produce ethanol for all sorts of uses. But what is really under discussed is that 10% of all fuel in the entire country is going to be made of ethanol. Not because it's better for your car's performance, not because it's more efficient. I mean, although technically producing blah blah blah, but this is, if you ask me, is ultimately done because we need to find somewhere to put this damn corn. Look at what we do. We put the corn into any food that you can. Put the corn in any animal that you can, including humans. Corn, 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 corn. Everyone eats some goddamn corn, and we're all going to be fine. When that's not the case. That's not the case in reality. It's too much corn, and it's bad for us. It's bad for everyone. Now, the second industry that, as I mentioned earlier, that I'm going to talk about is the fossil fuel industry. Now, what has the fossil fuel industry done? Something much more sinister than the corn industry even. While the entire country becoming obese is definitely problematic, it will not end the world the same way that the fossil fuel industry will. And I find it very informative that the fossil fuel industry, big oil, big gas, is enmeshed with the corn industry just like this because of that 10% ethanol in all gasoline in all of the country. It's a requirement. And there are gas stations that have 100% petroleum fuel, 100% gas, but it's not most of them. But in addition to global warming, what the fossil fuel industry has also done very successfully is turn all of our lives into opportunities to use more plastics. Plastics are not bad because they're not useful materials. Plastics are bad because we treat them as if they are God themselves. Plastics are not Jesus. We existed before plastics. We will exist after plastics. Oh, wait, no, we won't, because plastics are long polymer chains that take forever to break down, which means that far after you, I, and everyone you've ever known or loved is dead, those plastics will still be here. So the question is it a good idea to keep hacking our natural ecosystems for this resource, for something that will never go away? I mean, humanity is built on a constant process of creation and destruction, something that you once created for yourself, then is worn down, and then must be replaced by something else. Or you must fix it, you must alter it, you must engage with it. But this idea that plastics offer us an escape from that natural process is ridiculous, it's foolish, and no one believes it. It's only done because it makes the fossil fuel industry a lot of money. Now, that is all to say, when you look at what the things that these industries are trying to do, you understand something about our country more broadly. You understand what it means to rely on capitalism as an economic system, which is that we must increase disposability whenever and wherever we can. We cannot allow for people to, in the instance of food, we can't allow for people to be satisfied with just what they have. We need to keep pushing the envelope, pushing what people desire, pushing what people receive, pushing what people want, what they yearn for. And when you see that with plastics, everything is made of plastic and you're always buying something new. And much similar with food. Everything is made out of corn syrup now. Everything is, biohacked, even down to the colors that the food is, to make you crave it, to make you want it. To recognize what this system is going to do to us is to recognize these two very, very big players in it. And I think by recognizing that, we can become much more informed political actors and much more effective ones. Because any person who takes themselves seriously and wants to pursue a political career that will actually change what this country is and how this country treats its people and treats its planet is going to be a person who recognizes the impacts of these two industries in particular, corn and oil. Everything is corn and oil. And with oil, it's even more sinister than I'm giving it credit for. I'd go more into depth if I had time, but I've got to clock in about 25 minutes. It's going to be an interesting little race. But these two industries, it's all about the production, yes. It's all about the production, but it's really about putting these things everywhere so that you have to consume them, so that you're forced to consume them, so that's not an option. When it comes to plastics, our paints are plastics now. Top to bottom, I work in a restaurant. Everything in the damn restaurant is plastic. Why? Well, because it's cheap. Why don't we do things that last? Why don't we do things that are good for us, not just in the short term, but also in the long term? The answer is because these industries find it much more profitable to do the opposite. Now, whether the planet can handle that, whether humanity itself can handle that, those are different questions. And those are questions that they don't ask. Those are the questions that we have to ask. And so I hope that the takeaway from this video is just to see where these corporations have power in your lives, to recognize that, because recognition is the first step at changing that dynamic.